gave a couple knocks, shone the light in, and drove off.
What's up? What's up, man? What's going on?
He's got glasses on that are shining. He's got on a baseball cap.
I just pulled over just to go to the bathroom back here. I'm leaving.
Every van camping encounter has a hidden breaking point where absolute peace instantly turns into a living nightmare. Imagine waking up to find a creepy stranger unzipping your tent to rifle through your belongings, or sitting frozen in the dark as heavy, unidentified footsteps slowly pace around your vehicle. When isolation catches up with you in the middle of nowhere, what would you do? This story comes from Bunny and Beyond Van Life, a channel that shows the raw side of living on the road, including tense encounters with authorities. On June 29, 2025, she was parked at Fox Glen Park in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Imagine this. You're sitting peacefully inside your own van in a public park. You're not making any noise and you're not outside bothering anyone. You're working remotely from your laptop in your van. Then all of a sudden, you get the knock. It's a police officer. They're threatening to arrest you if you don't leave in a half hour. This isn't a movie. This is real life. This happened to me in Flagstaff, Arizona at Fox Glen Park.
At first, everything seemed normal. The van was in a public parking area, the park was still open, and there was no visible trouble. Then a police cruiser arrived. The officers watched her van and shined a bright light through the window. To her, it did not feel like a friendly check. It felt like an inspection. And suddenly the control shifted to the people outside.
The police knock on your house door, but it's a little bit different. It's gonna be trouble. You're either going to be asked to move, they're going to suspect you're doing something wrong, or you're facing another threat. He knocked on my door, he shone his big bright light in my van like he was searching it, and said it looked like I was camping. I told him the park is still open, and it felt like he was just harassing me.
The officers questioned why she was inside the vehicle. The word camping came up quickly, even though there was no clear proof she was camping. She stayed inside and refused to open the door. Then a second officer arrived, adding more pressure. Both officers wanted her to step out, but she refused. The conversation became a dispute over park rules. She said she was simply inside her vehicle in a public park, while the officers saw it differently. For van lifers, that is the gray area. Parking or resting can suddenly be treated like illegal camping, even when nothing about the vehicle has changed.
Does that work for you?
You already told me that the first time you came and harassed me. You said you thought I was camping.
We got called here because people are suspected to be camping.
Here's the thing, I'm in a van. That says so much more. He didn't even need to say it again. Now, there were other people in the parking lot, and I'm sure they were van lifers as well.
Eventually, they gave her a deadline and warned that staying past that time would become an offense. She agreed to follow the timeline, but kept questioning the reason. A warning was issued, and the officers left. Nothing physical changed that night. The whole situation escalated because of how she was perceived. So when a normal parking spot becomes a legal gray zone, who gets to decide what is really happening? A lit parking lot can feel safer than a dark road. But for Ian, one night in California proved that even a public place can turn unpredictable. Ian's channel is young, upbeat, and built around the freedom of living with less. He calls it car life, not van life, because he is not trying to create an aesthetic. He is simply living out of his vehicle in the way that works for him. On Saturday, January 13th, 2024, Ian had just finished a 10-hour shift and parked outside a McDonald's in California. It seemed like a practical spot for stealth camping, well-lit, active, and surrounded by people. He was winding down almost asleep when he heard something right outside his car door.
What's going on, man? What's up? What's up, man? What's going on? Hey, bro. What's up? What you doing, man? You fucking weird, bro. What the hell, man? Oh, man, I'm shaking, dude. I had my whole setup. I was sleeping back there, dude. Oh, man, he tried to open my door. And then you guys saw that. He wasn't saying anything, man. Dude was a freaking zombie, dude. I don't even have my glasses on. I can't be driving.
Ian made the safest choice he could. He drove away, using the car not just as shelter, but as an escape. What shook him afterward was the realization that he had seen this happen to other stealth campers before. Like many people, he thought those situations happened to someone else. But Ian had done nothing reckless. He was in a lit public area inside his car and had not drawn attention to himself. Still, it happened. Public places can feel safer because of lights, cameras, and people nearby. But late at night, you still cannot control who enters the area or how they act. Ian learned that even a normal parking lot can change in seconds when you are sleeping in a vehicle. Maybe it was only a strange person passing by, or maybe it could have become worse. What would you have done? Stay quiet, confront the person, or drive away immediately? Mary is the creator behind Maximalist Minibus, a YouTube channel, where she shares her outdoor lifestyle, campground routines, and daily life around her bus. Most of her videos feel calm and honest, but in a video uploaded on September 10, 2025, that quiet feeling was interrupted by something she never expected to record. After putting it off for more than a year, Mary finally set up a solar-powered trail camera near her tent. She thought it might capture raccoons, deer, or small animals moving through the campsite at night. Instead, it recorded a stranger entering her space while she was away.
I've had this camera for at least a year, maybe more, probably, maybe even 2 years. And I searched for it because I wanted one that had its own power so I could put it anywhere. It has the solar panel, and then it also has inside this little door, it has battery backup. You're supposed to put batteries in it. The batteries are like C batteries, or it's 4 AA's. So I got to get AA batteries. But the reason I haven't set it up is because it takes an SD card. You know, I don't have any this small. It only takes it could only be a maximum 32 megabyte SD card. And finally, I was at Walmart and I remembered. So I got an SD card. So now tonight I can set this up. I'm going to put the camera on this little footstool that I always put in front of my tent when I close it up for the night. It's basically just shooting right next to the bus. But for the first night, I don't even know if it's set up right, so I'm just going to leave it here.
She placed the camera on a footstool near the tent, pointing it toward the bus and the campsite area. The setup was simple and almost casual. But the next morning, Mary noticed something was wrong. Her tent had been unzipped from the top down in a way that did not seem accidental. At first, she nearly ignored it. Then she remembered the camera. When she checked the footage, she realized someone had been there in the middle of the night.
In the first part, it shot at like 8:30, and it just got like some campers walking to the restroom. And then at 2:30, you should see these headlights. So it looks like the car's coming from around, or I don't know, or I don't think it's a camper. And then it's a pickup truck that goes by. I don't recognize it. It could belong to a camper, but I know most of those cars. It's not a vehicle I recognize. Let's start with that. But right after it goes by, keep your eye on this over here. He's got glasses on that are shining. He's got on a baseball cap, and here he comes. He walks across. See, he's got a trash bag, it looks like. And I thought at first he had a backpack on. And then it missed the first part of him, but then he comes back with a flashlight. He's coming around, probably checking out what's on that table. Now he's shining the flashlight in through the mesh of the tent, trying to see what's inside the tent. And he's going, like, probably over to the golf cart to see what's in the golf cart. Around, I think he must probably go around the bus and come back again, because give it a second, he's going to come back. There he goes. And this time, he's not going to just look inside the tent. This time, yeah. He moves the camera. He moves the camera. I guess he doesn't know it's a camera. He's inside the tent for all. You can hear him plunking around, moving things, and then the movement stops, so the camera kind of stops recording.
Around 2 a.m., an unfamiliar pickup truck drove past the campsite. Moments later, a man appeared out of the darkness. He was wearing a baseball cap and glasses with what looked like a trash bag over his shoulders to protect himself from the rain. What made the footage so unsettling was how calm he seemed. He was not rushing. He walked through the campsite, shined a flashlight around Mary's belongings, checked near the tent, and then returned for a closer look. At one point, he aimed the flashlight directly through the mesh of the tent, trying to see what was inside. Then he moved the footstool, apparently not realizing the camera was sitting on it. After that, he unzipped the tent and went in. For several minutes, he stayed inside, moving through her things in the dark. A trail camera can help show what happened after the fact, but it does not stop someone from entering a campsite. That is why the footage feels so uncomfortable. Mary only found out later how close someone had been to her personal space.
but you can hear him still, but you can't see him. There he goes. Now he comes out, but he's got a trash bag, and he's wearing a trash bag. It's not a backpack, but it was pouring rain last night. So I've been looking around trying to figure out what he took. I mean, the most obvious thing would have been this tablet. I mean, I don't leave my laptop in here. He didn't take it. Then again, it's kind of old school. Maybe I don't know. My printer's here. This is a good printer. He didn't take that. Those would probably be good if you were camping or something. Maybe, I don't know. He didn't take them. Elvis glasses. Yeah, all this stuff is still here. My hummingbird feeder is still here. He didn't take that. Squirrel feeder, this is it. It's not assembled yet. I do have a toolbox in here, and it's got a lot of small tools, you know, things that he could have taken, and he didn't take those either. It doesn't really look like he took anything. I don't really even know why he was here.
When the man finally left, the strangest part was what he appeared to take. It was not electronics tools or anything clearly valuable. He seemed to take small basic items like hand sanitizer, rubbing alcohol, and toilet paper. That detail changed the feeling of the whole incident. It did not look like someone breaking in for money. It looked more like someone living outside and taking whatever they thought they needed. But that did not make it less disturbing. A stranger still walked through her camp, looked into her tent, and entered the place where she normally slept. Maybe the man was only trying to survive, or maybe there was another reason he was checking her campsite so carefully. Either way, once someone steps into the place where you sleep, the fear is hard to shake. What would you have done after seeing that footage? Stay, move camp, or leave completely? Have you ever tried to stay hidden only to realize someone may have already found you? That is what happened during this stealth camping night by a remote lake. In a video uploaded on July 24th, 2022 YouTuber Brendan Explores traveled to Lake Vyrnwy in Wales. He planned to spend the night stealth camping near the lakeside. There were signs around the lake warning against overnight parking and camping. But Brendan's plan was to keep things low-key and blend in with a regular car.
Looks like some people have already beaten me to it. That's definitely a camper there. The infamous signs. Let me show you. No overnight parking / camping.
After that, he moved to another spot by the lakeside. The car was prepared for the night. The windows were covered, everything was packed away, and he settled in.
So I've ended up moving from that fly-infested spot. So I'm going to do my very best at trying to air the car out of all those flies. It was an absolute nightmare. But yeah, look at this absolutely beautiful spot here. One absolutely epic evening. If it wasn't for those goddamn flies, which there's a couple still in here now. Anyway, I don't think there's anything left to do now, apart from getting dressed, get into bed, and wake up to that beautiful view.
Then around 3 a.m. headlights appeared. A vehicle pulled up and shined its lights directly at his car. When bright headlights hit a parked car at night, the person inside can see very little beyond the glare. That makes it hard to tell who is outside, what they want, or whether it is safer to stay still or leave.
I can see headlights. Who the was that? They just drove off, didn't shout anything, didn't ask if anyone's in here, gave a couple knocks, shone the light in, and drove off. Shit. I thought someone would come back then, Jesus. The fact that they left makes me think that they're probably just going to leave me be now. 1 o'clock in the morning. That is one absolutely terrifying feeling. I'll let you know if anyone returns. Fingers crossed they don't. And if you don't hear from me before morning, they've naffed off. Well, that's one hell of a wake up I've ever had one. Jeez. About the rest of my evening, about 3:30, a van pulled up, lights turned on directly at the car. Probably for about 15 minutes, the car was just sat there with the lights shining on the car. By the time they'd left, it had nearly 4 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't going to be long before the daylight hit. At about 7 o'clock, and I've just dozed in till about now, which is about 9:15 now.
Sometimes stealth camping in places with clear no camping signs means accepting that being discovered is always possible. But when it happens in the middle of the night, the choice becomes harder. Maybe it was only someone checking the area, or maybe Brendan had been noticed. What would you have done? Stay hidden, drive away, or wait to see what happened next? The next chilling video comes from Off the Trail, a US-based outdoor camping channel focused on solo van trips off-grid testing and real-time wilderness experiences. This happened on December 11th, 2025 in northeast Oklahoma, United States. At first, everything was under control. He was inside the van focused on cooking. Managing the heat became the main concern. The oven was running, the door was partly open, and he was making small adjustments. Outside, nothing seemed to be happening. But that is the important detail. While his attention was on what was going on inside the van, the area outside was no longer being watched as closely.
At 300, once it gets to 350-ish, I'll open it up, stick it in there, and we'll start cooking. Well, I just heard a coyote. I told you guys.
Then the moment broke. A coyote howl cut through everything around him. It sounded close enough to get his attention immediately. There was no confusion about what it was. He recognized the sound right away, and that changed the whole situation. The area outside no longer felt empty. It felt occupied.
There is a whole bunch of them.
Then he added another thought. One coyote usually does not mean just one. That changed the scale of the fear. It was no longer one sound coming from one place. It could mean several animals spread out in different directions around him.
Yeah. Unless they can chew through metal, I think I'll be okay. I don't know. Let's get back inside. We'll be all right. I didn't even think about testing the size of the pan. I forgot all about that, so let's hope it fits.
His behavior changed after that. He stayed inside and limited his movement. The van became a boundary, not exactly comfort, but separation. Nothing came closer. Nothing escalated. But now every sound outside had meaning. There was no direct encounter, no approach, and no confirmation beyond the sound. But once the environment felt active, the situation did not need anything more. Maybe the coyotes were far enough away, or maybe they were closer than he wanted to believe. Either way, would you have kept cooking or stayed completely still and listened? This story begins with Kayla N. trying to rebuild her sense of safety. After her family suddenly lost their home, she stopped seeing security as something you could simply buy. For her, stealth camping became a way to regain control, not just a topic for YouTube. About a year after she started posting videos, Kayla recorded one of her most unsettling nights on May 7, 2025. She was in Chicago, tired and cold after filling up her van and buying supplies. All she wanted was a place to park and sleep. She eventually chose a motel parking lot, a common option among stealth campers, because larger vehicles are often nearby, and people sleeping in cars may not stand out as much.
You guys, oh, there's a knock on my door. Oh, hold on, the dog sees him too. Hold on, shh. I can't even get up here because of the dog. Oh, baby. Excuse me?
You got a room here?
I was actually about to get a room. I wasn't here that long. I had to use the bathroom.
You have a room here, you got to leave.
Okay, thank you.
Kayla settled in and was just about to fall asleep when someone knocked. After being told to leave, she was forced into a risky situation, driving while exhausted through one of America's largest cities. She said on camera that she was tired and struggling, but staying there could have caused a bigger problem, so she moved on.
I'm getting kicked out, and it's the middle of the night. Oh my god. I literally just got kicked out. And I have to find somewhere else to sleep. Oh my god, I'm so tired. I could have not just answered the door, but I'm pretty sure he seen me pull up and with the dog running out and stuff like that. So it's best I just leave before it causes any type of problem.
Kayla eventually found another place to stop, but something about it felt wrong. Many stealth campers rely on that kind of instinct because your body can sometimes notice danger before your mind can explain it. When you are alone, tired, and parked somewhere unfamiliar, even small details can feel heavier than usual.
So I found a truck stop, and I'm gonna be sleeping here for the night. I don't think anybody's gonna come knock on my door. I hope not. But it looks kind of dangerous. I am at a truck stop in the, wide open. I don't know. very skeptic of the place that I chose.
Thankfully, the second spot turned out to be safe, and Kayla made it through the night. But the experience still shows the darker side of van life. One knock interrupted her sleep, forced her back onto the road, and left her searching for rest in a place that did not feel right. Maybe nothing dangerous was waiting for her that night, but the fear came from how quickly her sense of control disappeared. So what would you have done in her place? Stay quiet, answer the knock, or leave immediately. When you live in a van, a parking lot can feel like a temporary home. But for her, that feeling disappeared the moment someone knocked on her door. This video was uploaded on March 9th, 2023. Travel Snacks follows Allison as she lives and travels full-time in her van across America. On this night, she was trying to find a safe place to sleep in Columbia, South Carolina after a long day of driving. What should have been a simple overnight stop became one of the most unsettling nights she had experienced on the road.
The way that I decide where I'm going to go when I first go to a new place is I go on Google, I type in safest neighborhoods in X city, so for this Columbia, South Carolina, and then I just kind of go down the results and you kind of get a feel for a name of a city that's coming up more often. So in this case, I think it said like Forest Acres was pretty safe. So then I type into Google Maps, Walmart near that city. And so I just put my Google Maps to that Walmart. So that's just a little X marks the spot so that I could just get to the place and then I could do a little more research when I'm there.
She had just parked in a hotel lot and settled in for the night. Allison had done this hundreds of times before without any issue. Like usual, she turned off the camera and sat quietly for a few minutes, listening to the area around her before going to sleep.
Okay, so even though I'm really tired, I usually stay up for a few minutes and just kind of listen to my surroundings and kind of peek out the windows, coverings, just to like make sure that there's no one walking around or security rolling up on me or whatever. And then I go to sleep. Good night.
But less than half an hour later, someone knocked on her van.
Somebody's knocking.
A security guard in a regular unmarked car had apparently seen her pull in. Allison rolled down the window, told him she was leaving, and immediately pulled away. Now exhausted but fully awake, she had to drive off and search for another place to sleep.
Just a second. Hi.
Hey, you have a room?
I just pulled over just to go to the bathroom back here. I'm leaving.
Okay.
As she left, she was still trying to process what had just happened. She thought about how long she had been doing this, and how nothing like it had ever happened to her before. For people living in vehicles, a knock at night can feel much more intense than it looks from the outside. The van is not just a car in that moment, it is their temporary home, so a sudden knock can feel like someone appearing at your bedroom door.
All right, so it happened. That's the first time in hundreds of hotel parking lots that I ever got the knock, and I hadn't even fallen asleep. Now, normally if it was in the middle of the night, I would probably not have answered because of safety and because they wouldn't have known that I was in there. But since they saw me pull up and park, then they were like, bro, no. When I pulled up and turned and parked, that car was parked there with their lights on. But it's a regular car. So it looked like two dudes, which I couldn't really see, but it looked like two dudes in that car. So I thought it was just like people staying at the hotel. But that's interesting that they have security officers in their uniform. Quick editing note. The reason I immediately told him I was leaving is because when I rolled down the window, I saw that he was in a security uniform and I didn't want to go back and forth in terms of asking if I could stay, because obviously if he's coming up to my van, it's not allowed that people could just park there overnight. That's not staying in the hotel.
Allison was now driving with no clear plan. She was only trying to find somewhere she could safely sleep. Eventually, she found another spot, pulled in, and lay down at 11:15. She was exhausted, but still unsettled by the knock that had started everything.
Now I'm extra tired and a little amped up because whenever I get a knock on my van, it's like very startling. It's like somebody just knocking on your home door at night, like randomly. It's not a good feeling. I hope so much that this Cracker Barrel does not have security or signs saying you can't park there.
Maybe the security guard was only doing his job. But for Allison, the shock came from how fast a normal stop turned into a stressful search for safety. When you are tired, alone, and forced to move again at night, even a simple knock can stay with you. What would you have done in her place? Explain yourself, leave immediately, or try to find another hotel lot? A quiet parking spot can feel like freedom when you live on the road. But for them, one night was enough to remind them how exposed a motorhome can really be. Travel Tales is the YouTube channel of Chris and Charlene, a couple from Malta who had spent years traveling full-time across Europe in their motorhome with their dog Holly. Like many van lifers, they were used to finding quiet parking spots, trusting their instincts, and settling into unfamiliar places for the night. Most of the time, that freedom is what makes the lifestyle feel so beautiful. But every now and then, one night can remind you how exposed you really are.
So last week we couldn't find a park up with a fire pit. They were all out of order, but I found one and we're going there right now. It looks really beautiful because it's in the forest. So I'm so looking forward to get there and light up some fire.
They had found a hillside fire pit spot that looked peaceful when they arrived. Nothing about it seemed dangerous. There were no strange cars, no obvious people nearby, and no reason to think sleeping there would become a problem. So they settled in, got comfortable, and eventually went to bed, expecting nothing more than a quiet night in the middle of nowhere. But while they were asleep, Holly noticed something first. Then the banging began. Hard knocks struck the hood and sides of the motorhome loud enough to jolt Chris and Charlene awake. And that is one of the most frightening ways to wake up in a van, confused for a moment, unsure who is outside, and not knowing whether the people banging are drunk, joking, angry, or trying to get in.
We're back on the road because we couldn't sleep where we were. Basically, there were a lot of people outside our van. We were asleep and we heard a lot of noise coming from outside. There were people having a laugh, and a chat, but it turned out to be a nightmare for us. What the hell are those?
I don't know where I'm going. I don't know. It's not problem.
Sorry, but we're in a complete shock right now.
When you are suddenly woken from deep sleep, your brain needs a moment to catch up. That is why a loud noise in the dark can feel much scarier than the same sound during the day, especially when it is coming from right outside your vehicle. In that first burst of adrenaline, their instinct was to confront it. But stepping outside in the dark without knowing how many people were there or what they wanted could have made the situation worse. So they made the smarter choice. They started the motorhome and drove away, watching the mirrors the whole time and trying to put distance between themselves and whatever had just happened.
Basically, these guys, I thought they were just having fun because I could hear like music in a car. And then I heard like voices outside the van, so they came up to the van and started hitting. I'm sure I heard one like on the bonnet. Yeah, Ollie started barking.
Yeah, we were in a complete shock. Even now, we're still a bit. We've been driving for like 15 minutes.
Right.
We're so scared that they were going to follow us. That's what I thought, to be honest.
No, I don't think so. They went back in the car. First, they were banging on the van at the front, and that's what kind of woke me up. And then I think there were more than one. Some were banging on the side as well.
Yeah, but the ones on the side were really loud.
Yeah.
That me and Holly jumped.
They're just kids, I think, because I think when we turned on the lights, they just ran into the car again.
The next morning, they sat together and tried to understand it. The spot had looked completely normal when they arrived, a quiet hillside parking area that seemed safe enough for one night. That was the part that unsettled them most. There had been no warning, no strange feeling before bed, and nothing that told them they should leave before the night changed.
Morning, so we're at a new parking spot today. Here it was quiet though when we came. It's a normal park up. This morning we woke up a bit earlier than usual. I think because we were a bit stressed as well. When there are people outside your van, you know, you get that feeling of being scared. You don't know who they are, you don't know what they're doing, you don't know in what state they are in, so...
I think we did the good thing, we just left right away. Like at first I was gonna try and go outside and see, like that's the first instinct, like when you hear someone like hitting your van and like it's on purpose, you want to go out and like, this is kind of a good reminder for us. Luckily there's no real damage, like we managed to woke up in a bit of a shock, but we managed to get out there okay. But sometimes like one of the days I forgot to lock the front door just because like we felt so safe. So I think this is kind of a reminder that we kind of have to take extra precaution.
Looking back, maybe it was not as dangerous as it felt in the moment. Maybe someone was messing around, or maybe locals were trying to scare them away. But when you wake up in the dark to people banging on your home, you do not have the luxury of assuming the best. Maybe it was only a prank, but from inside the motorhome there was no safe way to know that. So what would you have done in their place? Step outside, stay silent, or drive away immediately? That's all for tonight's video. Which encounter gave you chills? Let us know in the comments below. Got your own experience? We want to hear it. And whatever you do, don't miss what's coming next.